Another day, another dollar. Except I'm not making any dollars. The days are just going by. Hello, everybody. My name is Jay Walker, and this is Blind Dates. I, once again, do not have a guest. Things happen. Technology doesn't have a tendency to work, and that's okay. So we're gonna wing it. Um, I figured that today we could talk about a topic that is pretty interesting to most people in the disabled community or, most people who are just curious in general about service animals, because specifically service dogs, and seeing eye dogs, I should say, um, or guide dogs or whatever you would like to call them. I have heard every name under the sun for what they're actually called, but I'm going to call them seeing eye dogs or guide dogs. Um, so when I guess I should say that a lot of people have approached me and been like, so what was like your experience with, your service dog? Should I do it? Should I go through the process of flying to a random city in order to, meet a dog for 3 weeks? And it's like, I mean, it is to each his own. I should say that too at the very beginning. Every person is going to have a different experience based on where they go, how ready their O&M skills are, and just generally how motivated they are to get the job done. And obviously, every dog is different too. Every dog has a different need, every dog has different ticks or anything like that. So every experience is going to be different. But generally, I would say that it is a more positive experience to have a service dog or a guide dog. Um, I did not have a positive experience with my seeing eye dog, but that does not mean that other people should not go forth and try it out because it really is such an amazing experience. And I'll give all the details of why throughout the story. But let's start in, let's say 2020. Um, when I was a senior in high school, so yeah, that would have been 2021 actually. Um, we sent a video to a guide dog place. I won't say the company because I didn't have a great experience and I don't want that to, you know, come back to me. But um so I went for, I was in college and trying my best to live day to day, and I was normal, and I had my cat, and I was like, I feel like I would have a better chance at being independent if I had a service dog or a seeing eye dog. Seeing eye dog. I keep saying it wrong. But yeah, so I ended up doing some research and I found a couple of schools and I picked one and um shot a video with my mobility instructor to and it was just a video of me going to and from class and to and from work and all that whatever, and it was like a really frustrating experience. I remember always thinking like the whole time like my skills are not going to be good enough for them to recognize that I should do this. Like even though I had absolutely no problem like recording the video, I was and like I knew my routes back and forth and like anything, but it was just I was so stressed out because I was like, what if I'm not good enough? And so that was a huge anxiety for me, like throughout most of the time period. And when I was actually in college, I waited to hear back from them for 2 years. I waited to hear back for 2 years. And in June of 2022, yeah, so I guess I only waited a year. I heard back from them in June of 2022. and they said, "Hey, we accepted you into our program. You'll be hearing back from us in a couple of months so we can set up a scheduled time for you to come out." I was like, "Cool." I thought that meant within the next couple of weeks. No, I didn't go until the following year. I didn't go until June of 2023. And it was the first time I had ever flown by myself as a blind person. And so that was an exciting experience to be able to feel independent, I guess. And it was a strange sense of like having this motivation that I didn't have before and having this drive that I didn't have before because I felt as though I was doing something that I never thought I would be able to do, which was navigate an airport by myself. And when I got off the plane, I, found my person pretty easily and got my luggage and we went to the facility without, a moment's hesitation. So it was a big jump from, you know, having all these people surrounding me and being in a sorority and always being around, people that can help me to just being completely alone in this foreign state for 3 weeks because that's how long the program was. It was 3 weeks long. And so day one, I actually kept a journal of everything we did every single day up until like the week two, I think, is when I stopped. Um, but day one of the journal talks about, being so excited and being just like over the moon about getting a dog and so excited about having like a friend, I guess is a way to say it. And before then, we had already gone like shopping, and I had spent $200 worth of money on just garbage. And yeah, so my house was ready. I was ready. I was so excited. And then on day 3 or 4, I met Miss Ginger. Ginger was a lab. She was a full lab, and she was ginger. She had red coating in her, and she was the sweetest dog. She like was very expressive. She had these really like thick eyebrows, and they like were just very expressive on her face. It made her look like a human. And she loved like hugs and like wiggles, and she was a pup, and I mean she was a puppy. She was only born to like a year earlier. She was only a year old or something like that, like 18 months old. And it went downhill from there pretty quickly. She came into my room the first time I met her and she ran up to me and I was so excited and I was so happy. It was like I was meeting my baby for the first time. It was literally like I had just given birth and a baby had come out of me. And I was meeting it for the first time. And it was like my eyes had been opened to this brand new world that I was about to embark on. And embark. Anyway, um, so they just kind of left her with me. They didn't really give me much instruction. They were just like, yeah, here you go. We're gonna go give the other people their dogs. And I was like, oh, okay. And so they just kind of left her with me. And so, I like walked her around the room and we played with some toys. And I mean, that was it for the first day until we started doing training. And this dog was very hyper. I knew that from the very beginning. Like she ran into the room, she jumped on me, like she was licking me, she was all this stuff. She was very excited, blah 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 blah. Very dog energy, very full lab energy. And it was, you know, it was good if she would have just been a regular dog. But she was so hyperactive and so excited that she would pull super hard on the leash, and she literally at one point pulled me off of a bench and dragged me like on the ground because I still had her leash in my hand, and she almost broke my wrist, like pinning me against the side of a bench. And I had to end up like letting her go. And the whole reason why she had gone crazy is because her trainer had come out of the building and was like there. And I don't know. It was just it was a whole thing. And so as the days went on, I gradually just kind of began to notice that she was very hyperactive, very much, she just didn't seem ready to be a service dog. Like she was unbelievably intelligent. And she would stop at curbs and like all this stuff, but as soon as there was another animal or like some sort of noise or like anything that would happen, you know, she would jump or she would just lose track of what she was doing. Like there was several times that I had to like redirect her, which is, I mean, she's a dog, which is fine, but it was more than what would have been acceptable. It was like enough to the point where I texted my friend who has had service dogs for 70 years, and that's not even an exaggeration. 50, I think 50 years actually. But uh she told me, like, I asked her, is this normal behavior? Like, should she be so rapidly going after treats and food? Should she be so hyperactive around other animals? Should she be pulling me on the leash? Like, is this normal? And my friend was like, absolutely not. Like, that's not normal. All the service dogs I've had have never done that. They've been very trained, very polite, have good manners, like all that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't the case for Ginger. And that didn't mean that she was a bad dog. She was just hyper, and she just wasn't necessarily meant to be a service dog. And I didn't really understand that then. But so we went through the entire training, and at the end of week two, no, middle of week two, I woke up to Ginger diarrheaing all over the floor. And I had to find, a like a person in the hallway and have them help me clean it up and like all this stuff. But she just kept having diarrhea for days, days and days and days. And she was just sick, and there was like nothing we could do about it. And like her face was puffy, and like it was strange. Like she just got sick. And because of that, we weren't working. Like they stopped training for me and they made her rest. And so like when we would go out and do stuff, like I would just wait on the bus. And so there was like a weeks long process of me not doing anything. And then by the end of week three, when she was healthy again, we, she wasn't performing correctly. She was off. She was pulling me off of curbs and stopping when she shouldn't be stopping or going when she shouldn't be going or like all these things. And it was giving me a lot of anxiety because I knew that she was going to come home with me within a couple of days and I knew she wasn't ready. So on the one of the last days, the trainers sat me down and were like, "So she's not ready. We can't let you go home with her. It's a hazard." And I was literally crushed. Like I have never been so angry at a person in my life. Like I full brat mode was like, "Are you kidding me? Like I've done all of this just so you can tell me that it didn't work." And they were like, they, the whole point of it was that they didn't have somebody to come out and help me train immediately. And so they needed to keep her for another week. And I was like, "Well, how is that going to impact our training?" And they're like, "It won't." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" And sure enough, she showed up a week later after I had gone home. It was, I can't remember the exact date. I think it was July something. And um she was a nightmare. She was a nightmare. She came into my house and immediately tried to attack my cat. Not attack, she would never, you know, try to hurt her by any means, but she definitely went after her and was barking at her and was trying to get at her. And so my cat was not a happy camper for a couple of days, but And so I was very upset because I told them I have a cat and she needs to be good around cats. And they were like, "Oh, she's perfect around other animals. Like she's a darling around cats. Like she's not gonna do anything." And then she walks into my house and then immediately tries to attack my cat. And I'm like, "So what's the truth here? What's the vibe?" And they're like, "Oh, she'll get used to her." And I'm like, "Really? Because I can't even have them in the same room." Like Loki literally is locked in the bedroom right now you because she can't. And like I had to have her tied up to the wall for like 3 days. And I don't know, a lot of it was just, it was very, it seemed really unprofessional, I guess is a way to say it, is they just kind of like showed up, gave me this dog, and then left me with her for a day. Like they literally showed up, dropped her off, and left for the day. And I was like, okay, what what do I do? Like I do I walk her? Do I like what do I do? And so like it and it wasn't just the cat. She was biting things, pulling things apart, like trying to break free from her chain. And I didn't think she should have been on a chain in the first place, but it was their instructions, and so I had to do it. But so she was like trying to break free of her chain, and she wouldn't sit still, and she would cry, and she would like, and no matter what I did with her, she would just bolt. Like she would just try to run. And like I tried walking around my apartment with her to like get her used to everything, but she would still just act a fool. And on day 3 of them being at my house, the trainers at my house, we started walking, and we had not had a successful walk the entire time that she'd been home because she had been pulling or not walking or getting distracted or not working. And and like obviously there was like it wasn't all the dog's fault. Could I have been a better leader? Absolutely. But it was also my first time ever using a guide dog, and I knew my route front and back, like it was the back of my hand, but she would guide me in different directions. And one thing that people don't really recognize when you first get a guide dog is like you're going from learning everything about your environment with a cane, so like sweeping and feeling everything around you and having a mental picture, to just having the dog and putting all of your trust in this dog that it will get you where you need to go. So you don't have your markers anymore. You don't have your tactile patterns. You don't have your anything anymore. It is literally just you need to be able to know your route without anything, which to me seems kind of impossible because the whole point of being a blind person is knowing your environment. And like every single time I've had a mobility instructor, it's always been how can you use your environment to make your life easier? And it's like they don't expect you just to walk in open land and know exactly where you are. Like that's not feasible. But that's what these people expected. And they took me to they took me with this dog who was inexperienced and very hyperactive and very people and dog distracted, and took me to the downtown area of my town, which I live in a small town, so it's not like bumping, but it was a Saturday night or Sunday night, and so the bars were open, and it was a Saturday night actually. And so the bars were open and everybody was running around, and I live in a college town, so like everybody's drunk, everybody's acting a fool, there's people honking in their cars, like it was chaos. And I wouldn't go down there alone as a woman, let alone as a blind woman. And so when they were like, let's just take the dog down there, I was like, okay. And then we went down there and it was a nightmare because I've never been down there by myself, because why would I? And so they were like, take us to the ice cream shop. And I was like, I don't know where that is. I was like, I've never been there before. And and then they would just, it was a whole thing. I knew by day 2, like day 1 happened. And I had the first day with the trainer, and then day 2 happened, and the vibe was completely different with the trainer. Like, she did not like me, and it showed. Um, she like was very much like, you're not doing anything right, like blah 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 blah. And I was like, okay, so you're not actually telling me what to do, you're just telling me what I'm doing is wrong. And so on day 3, we went out for a walk, and Ginger just didn't move. We got to the end of the sidewalk and she just stopped. She would not walk, and she kept turning around and trying to go back to the apartment. And I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. And so like I texted the trainer, and she was like, figure it out. And I was like, because that was their thing, is like they let you do everything by yourself. And if you needed help, you could text them, except with them, they didn't let me get help. It was like, figure it out. And I was like, okay, so that's not helpful at all, but go off. And um, so we she's just stopped walking. And I texted the trainer and I said, hey, what's going on? And she said, like, just take her back to the apartment. We probably need to have a conversation. And I was like, okay. So we sat down in the lobby of my apartment building with Ginger and the trainers, and they were like, we think that she has reverted back to not wanting to be a service dog. Like, we think that she has decided that it's not her career path. Because that's the thing about dogs, is they have to decide that they want to do it. Like, whether it's a cop dog or a firefighter dog or a service dog or a guide dog, like, they have to want to do it or else they're not going to do it. And she did not want to do it. She was so much better just to be a regular dog. And she would have been an angel puppy, because she was such a good girl. She got into stuff and she barked a lot, and like, but after a couple years of good training and like love and compassion, I bet she would have been a fantastic house animal. But so they um told me that she would be coming back with them, and I would get one more night with her, and then I would never see her again. And to say that I was crushed was an understatement. I have not cried like that ever. I It was literally like, earlier I said like it was like I was seeing my baby for the first time, and it genuinely felt like they were taking my baby away. Like, it felt like they had reached into my soul and ripped it in half, because and I was like, "Well, can I keep her? Like, can I at least keep her?" And they were like, "No. Like, she will be like adopted out somewhere." And I'm like, "So I can't even adopt her out. I'm just don't get her." And so that was it. I saw her for the rest of the night, and I sobbed into her constantly. And that was the last time I saw her. They took her away, and that was it. And then a week later, I got an email. I got an email from the guide dog facility I had been at saying, hi, we recently canceled your training. Or like, we recently, what's the word? What's the word? What's the word? Terminated. We recently terminated your training. Here are some reasons why. And there was like 7 reasons. Every one of them had to do with me, not the dog. There was not even a mention in there that the dog had stopped working, had stopped wanting to work, was not behaving, was not dog friendly, was not anything. But one of the things there are 2 things that really I picked up on. One of the reasons was, your mobility training is not up to par. And I'm like, okay, so let's break this down. I know my route like it's the back of my hand. I was able to describe it to you and map it out on a piece of paper without even thinking about it. I was able to do it completely fine without the dog, and I was able to do it completely fine when it was just me. But then, the moment the dog came in, I wasn't able to do my route anymore. maybe it wasn't me. And they're like, they mentioned the thing about going to downtown and how I wasn't comfortable in new spaces. I'm like, okay, I am comfortable in new spaces. I'm not comfortable on a Saturday night in the middle of a bar strip where there are hundreds of people, dozens of cars, honking and lights and moving winds and noises. I'm comfortable going to a Walmart. I'm comfortable going to a barber shop. I'm comfortable going to a park. What I'm not comfortable with is going to a super loud, unfamiliar environment that I would have absolutely no reason to go to in the first place. And they never asked me. They never asked me where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. They were just like, oh, there's a downtown. We're going to go there. I was like, would you take someone, like, say I lived in a super, like, rural, like, farmer land? Would you say, oh, we're going to take you to the city because you need to learn how to do that? Which is great. Like, yeah, you should know how to do that. But if a person lives in the farming town, they're not going to go to a city every day. So they should learn. I don't know. I could go for years. But the other thing that really pissed me off was you need to learn how to manage your anxiety better. And I was like, first of all, you don't have the right. Second of all, um, the dog tried to attack my cat and almost led me into the street a couple times and almost got into a dog fight. So, yeah, I have anxiety. And instead of you teaching me, because it's like you handed me this dog and you expect me to be just completely okay with it. And it's like, okay, is a normal person not going to have some form of trepidation or anxiety about having a new animal and not using a cane that you've used for 5 years? Yeah. And I would say I'm pretty normal. So I basically threw a bitch fit, um, and called my guide dog friend who I had texted in the beginning of my guide dog journey about Ginger and being like, is this normal? And she was like, no. So I texted her and I was like, this is what I was just sent. What do I even do about this? And she was like, you fight it because that's garbage. And I was like, yeah, perfect, cool. So we ended up emailing the place and they said they couldn't talk to her because she wasn't me. So I emailed them and was like, hey, talk to me. And they were like, cool, we'll set up a meeting. And then they never got back to me. So that was the end of the story, really, is there was no resolution. I was blamed for my dog not working. And I am being as genuine as possible. It's not like I am being like accusatory or aggressive. Like, this company isn't a bad company. Like, they have produced thousands, maybe millions of fantastic dogs. It's just that this one did not work out. But the audacity of them to blame me for it and have, because that letter can affect how I'm gonna get a future guide dog. And I mean, I don't even know if I want another one because of this situation, because I don't know if I want to go through that whole process again just to have the run the risk of losing it again. And so that was my story with having a guide dog. And even though my story is bad, I know I can name 3 people just off the top of my head right now who have fantastic guide dog stories, who like just love their animals and who love them. And it's like it works for most people. I won't even say some people. I'll say it works for the vast majority of people. I am the 0.01 percentile that it just did not work for, which a rarity is kind of my thing. So, yeah. But that is my story with having a guide dog, and I honestly don't have anything else to talk about, so, um, I hope you enjoyed listening. I hope that you are all having fantastic days and that everything is going well. Um, if you ever want and you have comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to reach out at blinddatesjw@gmail.com. If you want to follow us on Instagram, follow me at the_real_J_Walker. Follow us on Facebook at blinddatesw/J Walker. The W is with a slash because I am too lazy to write out the word with. So, um, I believe that is it. All right. Bye.